Ken Tucker of Yahoo, we have a very exciting Emmy race this year because we have a lot of newcomers. We have shows like Handmaid's Tale and This Is Us on the drama side, and Atlanta on the comedy side. Of all the new shows, which ones do you think are positioned to do best?
I think a comedy like Atlanta, it's on FX, that kind of really wonderful boutique handling of shows, the way FX can really showcase these. I think it has a real chance to become a much bigger hit than it already is. I mean, it's already got a real strong critical consensus, and it just seems to me, it feels to me like a show that could break out to an even wider audience.
Mm-hmm. It certainly did well at the Golden Globes. It won there. It's done extremely well at the Guilds. But the one thing it doesn't have going for it, and why I'm skeptical about it, is it doesn't have the snob appeal. I mean, look at the shows that hold the records for the most Emmy wins ever, aside from Game of Thrones. Frasier, West Wing, even Veep. These shows that are very, very aspirational, upscale, hoity-toity, and Atlanta is about a rapper. It's about the urban experience. It's a challenge to Emmy voters.
Yeah, and I also think maybe this works against it, but it has this kind of art house sensibility. It has, it had whole episodes that were done in styles that were completely different from what you saw in the pilot of it. It was it's very, in a lot of ways, it's very experimental, and I think that does contribute to a certain a snob appeal, to use your phrase. I mean, I would just say it's a good piece of art, and just happens to be about a rapper as its subject matter. Because I think Glover is a very, very shrewd guy on every level. He's shrewd filmically, musically. He has a real sense of how he wants his narrative to play out. And I think in some ways, what he's doing is every bit as, maybe even a little bit more successful than what Aziz Ansari tried to do in the second season of Master of None, which I'm probably at this point is maybe the hotter show, but maybe that's just because it's more recent in our minds. But I think Atlanta. I certainly see what you mean about Atlanta lacking that kind of family appeal, and the sort of Frasier kind of locked in characters that we can go to and depend on every single week. But I guess to me, that's what makes it exciting too.
The reason I like to point to Frasier as a classic Emmy example is think about it, Ken. It's a show about two effete brothers arguing about vintage wine and opera. I mean, you can't get any more snobbish than that.
That's right. That's true.
Among the drama series, the new ones, Ken, Handmaid's Tale, and This Is Us, Stranger Things, Westworld, The Crown. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Which ones do you think have the best shot at Emmy love?
I think Handmaid's Tale, in the sense that it's a real high quality production. It has this theme that's very much this sci-fi theme that suddenly has taken on very great timeliness in the current political atmosphere. This strong feminist message, just amazing performance by Elizabeth Moss. I think that's really got a chance to really break through. I mean, it's by far the most prestigious, impressive thing that Hulu has done. It's really put them on the map, I think. So I think that's really got a big chance. I think, something like Westworld always has the possibility to be something like Game of Thrones in its kind of pop culture outreach, but it has that sort of that sci-fi label holding it back a little from I think broad acceptance from the voters for the Emmys. Do you think that's still true?
Well, look at Game of Thrones has the fantasy elements. Lost one. I think it's less true, but in general, I agree with you. I think it's a problem. I'm looking at your predictions now. You got Elizabeth Moss to win. So do I. I think that's where it's got its best chance, because she has never won an Emmy, and I think that a lot of people, Emmy voters, are aware of that. And she also has a kind of a dual role, her flashback character and her current character, and it gives you a kind of a dramatic range that they like to see.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. And if Stranger Things, I got to say, just kind of, I'm old enough to feel that 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 the kind of movies that it was an homage to were at once better and worse than this. That in that it's like your model, the thing you're modeling it after was basically, I think, so junky that when you do an homage to a piece of junk, it's just not that absorbing to me. But I get why people love that young cast, and I could totally see it riding that wave of enthusiasm into at least one more season of great acclaim and enthusiasm. So I guess that, and being on Netflix, it just, that really dovetails with the audience. That the audience for that show are exactly the kind of people who would want to binge watch 6, 8, 12 episodes of it.
Mm-hmm. Uh, for This Is Us, you've got it out front in a lot of categories. You've got it for drama actress with Chrissy Metz and Sterling K. Brown. Oh, you got it
Yeah.
for drama series too. So give me your This Is Us pitch.
Well, I think that anytime you've got a network drama that attracts, a decent amount of critical acclaim, and is just a huge ratings hit, it's something for voters to really take note of and latch onto and want to give a boost to. Because I think there's still that feeling of like, where's the next great network drama? Where's the next great network sitcom? We can't allow this form to die, kind of thing. And so I think that it's got that sort of base of support within the Academy to win a lot of awards.
Game of Thrones isn't in the race on the drama side this year, so it will be back next year. So there's a short little window in here for another show to sneak in. I like This Is Us because I think it has all of the elements you just mentioned, plus it has a kind of water cooler quality, a kind of feeling of importance. But what scares me is this other thing you're mentioning, Ken, which is the fact that the network shows, the broadcast network shows, have not done well. Matter of fact, none have been nominated for Best Drama Series in several years. The Good Wife was the last one several years ago. Cable and recently the streaming services have dominated here. Do you think it's possible that is that just a fluke, or do you think there could actually be in the mind of the Emmy voter a bias against broadcast?
Yeah, I think by now there might be a general feeling out there that broadcast is not the hip thing to vote for, to get behind. There just could be that idea that network stuff just can't compete, that it doesn't have the freedom, it doesn't have the adventurousness that cable or streaming does. But I think This Is Us, it is just enough of a quirky way of its storytelling works, the way that whole mechanism has been set up to do these kinds of flashbacks and flash forwards, that it's not confusing to the big mass audience, network audience, in a way that some other more, slightly more obscure cable stuff could be. So to me, it just feels like a very broad audience yet quality show that, that I guess in years past I would have said it's an absolute lock for Emmys, but I guess for the reasons you're describing, it's not so much of a lock anymore.
But there also is, strangely enough, if you look at patterns in these awards, of a bias against streaming. While it gets in for nominations, the only major category streaming service has won so far has been comedy actor with Jeffrey Tambor 2 years in a row. Veep dominates, and Modern Family before that, etc. So this year, what I think we're all looking for is, with Game of Thrones out of the race, and with all of these streaming services doing so well suddenly, and on the campaign front, I'm here in Los Angeles, and you can't turn around any corner without billboards everywhere. These massive FYC billboards, generally from the streaming services. And I'm an Emmy voter, and I get my daily package from Netflix and 50 million more DVDs. Their onslaught continues. So I think this is going to be a record year for them, but I'm not exactly sure what pony to bet on. But I think the bias, if there is a bias against streaming in terms of picking winners, I think that may be over. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what the bias comes from. I wonder if it's that voters recognize that there's quality there, but they themselves aren't actually sitting down and watching all 12 hours of a show. And I know that as a reviewer, I feel like if Netflix makes the 12 hours available, I've got to sit through every damn half hour of Bloodline that, exists before I can write a review that says, it's okay.
Right.
Because I have to be absolutely sure watching 12 whole hours that my it's okay is justified.
Right.
So I just wonder if there's just, the Jeffrey Tambor can break through as a winner because all they have to do is watch a couple of episodes of Transparent and say, that's a very good performance, give it to him,
Right.
and feel safe in that judgment. And not know that, and not have to be mindful of, at episode 8, this thing really falls off a cliff.
You've got The Crown in second place for best drama series, and a lot of our pundit pals have it in first place. I'm skeptical of it. I mean, on one hand, it looks like a made for Emmy show, right? It's just perfect. It's got all that upscale stuff they're looking for, and all you have to do anything about the British monarchy, and it'll sweep both the Emmys and the Oscars. Of course, as Americans, we're suckers for being secret Anglophiles. But it aired a while ago, and I don't think it was. While it was very appealing and engaging, I don't think it did enough dramatically. This is me. I'm not a TV critic, but I will not be shy about voicing my own opinion. I liked it a lot, but I don't think it did that something extra special. Do you?
I mean, I
wouldn't be surprised if it won, but on the other hand, I'm not picking it. I'm not doing a good job of articulating why.
Well, I think it was extremely well done. I felt like that as though, given the programming that surrounds it, it was much better than the last couple of seasons of Downton Abbey, for example. But I also acknowledged that it didn't have anywhere near the buzz of Downton Abbey or any number of other shows. So I guess I think that it's this very solid period costume drama that gives people something that they increasingly don't have very much of, and that on some level, just the very satisfying storytelling and those very, very solid performances just do a lot in a very old-fashioned way. It's a very satisfying thing to both watch and afterward to think about. Like even though it aired a while ago, I still feel as though people can look back and say, "Oh, that Claire Foy, what a wonderful performance that was."
Yeah.
I think it has that going for it.
Yeah. I agree. Looking at your predictions for comedy, you've got Veep for best comedy series. I agree with that. Julia Louis-Dreyfus to win. You've got Donald Glover to win for comedy actor for Atlanta. You've got Anthony Anderson in second place. I think that's very possible. And Aziz Ansari, you have in third. He won last year for writing. And you've got Jeffrey Tambor down in the fifth spot. I think you're ranking Jeffrey a little low. What do you think, Ken?
I know. Well, no, I don't think. It always comes down to, what's my sort of personal feeling versus what I think may actually win or be nominated. And so I just feel like I've seen Anthony Tambor's performance. There's kind of nothing new that he's going to give me from that performance. And I feel like Donald Glover that was a terrific performance, that there's much more to be seen of that character, many more layers to expose in him. And then I look at somebody like Anthony Anderson, who I feel just hasn't been given the proper recognition that he deserves for the performance that he gives in Blackish. And I just think, how can they not have more momentum and more goodwill coming toward them than Tambor at this point, which to take nothing away from the very, very good performance he's given.
On Best Limited Series, you've got Big Little Lies over Feud. I disagree with that, but I want to hear your defense first.
Well, maybe this was because I was made in the throes of there was so much acclaim for Big Little Lies, which I was a part of, by the way, by the end of it. I began the show, but not really even thinking it was all that great. And it was one of the rare miniseries that got better as it went along, I felt. Mm-hmm. So I felt that I guess it was fresh in my mind to a certain extent. And I think it's going to be fresh in a lot of voters' minds. So I think, I really think it has more of a chance, I would say.
Uh, did you like Feud?
I did like Feud. You know, again, well, I was going to say it got better as it went along, but I don't think that's true. I think it was pretty consistent, and along about the middle, I was getting a little bit tired of it. I found it a little repetitious, but I did think that the performances, those two performances, were very good. But on some level, they were also impersonations, and impersonations to me just wear thin after a while.
Isn't that what they love? Like the Oscars and the Emmys, you just a famous person portraying another famous person is like automatic award win, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
you
I
do want Jessica Lange to win for mini actress over.
right. Yeah. And because, you know, I think they do very good jobs. It's just that I feel like Big Little Lies was a real accomplishment on a number of levels, that it was a very good adaptation. It was a real coup to get all those very good actresses together to do that project. You know, I think Reese did an amazing production job, you know, on that project. And, you know, I just think it's a really, for a piece of work that could have been very superficial, it was a really solid accomplishment, ultimately.
The Wizard of Lies reviews have not been great on that, but you've got it winning both for De Niro, which I agree with, by the way, and you've got it winning for a TV movie, which I kind of agree with too. But by the way, given the recent upsets by Sherlock, I'm very, very suspicious of that possibility happening again. But then we have this wild card in the TV movie race of the Oprah Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Size up best TV movie for us here.
Well, you practically did it, but I think that whenever you have De Niro coming to television, that's an event, so people want to see that. And I was really happy and impressed with his performance, in the sense that it wasn't another monosyllabic tough guy. He was playing, you know, as De Niro was essentially playing his own age, playing a very articulate, intelligent man. So it was interesting on that level. And so I just thought it was a very, very well done, well directed project. And Henrietta Lacks, by contrast, I don't think is particularly well directed. And I thought it was a rather mediocre script with very, very good performances. And I don't think you can ever count Oprah out of anything, because she's just still, I think, somebody that people want to hand awards to. But I also agree with you about Sherlock, and I'm probably underestimating it, because while I admire Benedict Cumberbatch and what they're doing with it, it always seems a little gimmicky to me, that show. And you know, the twists and turns, I'm always suspicious, because I read a lot of mysteries and I never know like who done it. But with this, I can always see things coming a mile away. So I think, how good could it be if a dummy like me can figure this out?
But it has such a high cool quotient and
Yes.
snob appeal and all that. And this season wasn't that great. But of the three Sherlocks that came out, the lying detective, the one that they have in the mix here, really was really good. I didn't watch it finally till a week or two ago, and I thought, oh, right, that's great. I'm not sure they watch these things. Let's talk about this. The Emmy voting has changed in the last year or two, like 2 or 3 years actually, where it used to be that 50 to 70 people might be all that would vote on Best Drama Actor, because they would be members of the acting branch who would volunteer to watch the DVDs of sample episodes submitted, and they'd have to check off a ballot. They would be limited to a maximum of 4 categories, just in order to make sure that they weren't overloaded and that they would do their work. And in general, it seemed, because we monitored them very closely at Gold Derby, the winners did seem to line up, for the most part, with the strongest, best performances on those DVDs. Well, in the last couple of years, they've said now everybody can vote within the acting branch, for example. So all 2,500 members can now dive in. And the episodes are online, but we're not going to police it. You're supposed to watch it, wink, wink. But there's much less of a parallel now between a winner and an episode. For example, Margot Martindale winning last year in the guest category for sipping a cup of coffee for 3 minutes. I mean, that was the whole performance. What the hell was that? Or Ben Mendelsohn winning, and he's dead. He's not even practically in the episode in the season for Bloodline. But on the other hand, there were some that seemed to line up. And so what happened a couple of years ago was was they opened things up to kind of a more mass popular vote. And then last year it changed again where that trend continued. But the new twist last year with the voting change was it was no longer a ranked system where a voter ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in an acting race, for example, and the one with the lowest score wins. It's now a matter of just check off who you like. And I was very, very against that last year until all of a sudden I saw Tatiana Maslany winning. And I thought, yeah, she wouldn't win a consensus ranked vote, but she could win with just a plurality. And that's a good thing. So where do you stand on these recent Emmy changes? Do you like them or not?
I guess as you explain it there, what was occurring to me is that the voting is now open much more to sort of an impulse vote, and to an uninformed vote based on what the voter may have actually seen, but perhaps much more swayed by conversations with friends in which Tatiana Maslany's name is coming up a lot in conversation and thinking, give it to the kid. And so if it can ratify that kind of whimsical voting, I think that's a bad thing. I think the more the voting process encourages deeper viewing, the better the award giving will be.
Yeah, I think that my recommendation to the Academy would be to start policing the vote. So in other words, and this, now that I think about it, it would be hard to do, but ideally what would be great is let everybody vote in the acting branch. Just let them vote, but don't count it if they haven't actually clicked on the links. I'm an Academy member. I get my ballot, and I can log into my account, and I'm just in the interactive branch, so I don't get to vote on acting. But within my branch, even the links are there. So let's say you're the Academy, and you say, all right, well, if Tom O'Neill hasn't clicked on at least 3 of the 5 links within that category, or 7 links, we're not going to count his vote. We're not going to get him mad by telling him that. It's going to be in the rules, so you can always check that. And I think that might be a way to solve the to kind of police the viewing. But what's bad about that idea, now that I think about it, is you've seen Big Little Lies on HBO, and you're not clicking any links online. So how dare the Academy disqualify my vote? I'm not sure there's a way out of this problem.
Yeah, there probably isn't. And just being able to check who should win, it doesn't seem that it doesn't allow for kind of gradations of opinion. And because people probably a substantial number of people who really give some thought to this, and in the previous way of being able to vote, thought long and hard about who they should place second or third and fourth. It's just, and I think that kind of tallying registers those kinds of subtleties and more thoughtful sorts of voting, I think.
Lastly, I think if I was king of the Emmys and could mandate one change across the board, I would absolutely force all of these categories to open up to 10 contenders. I think that there's just so much product now, and so many streaming services and cable channels, and what there are 400 scripted shows, new shows, or shows being done in Hollywood every year, that it would be great to have 10 instead of 6 or 7 nominees. The reason the Academy used to give for not doing that, when they would say, well, we're at the Shrine Auditorium, there are only 5,000 seats, there's not enough room to seat all the extra nominees and their guests. But now they're downtown, and the arena fits 7,500 people. There's all kinds of room for that. And now they say, well, we still can't expand to 10 because how do you accommodate 20-some categories on a broadcast, plus give the host 25 minutes and the producers for entertainment stuff, and still cram all that in 3 hours? If you have to start reading off all these other nominees, that eats into the time. There's got to be a way to solve that problem, number one. My question to you, I guess, Ken, is should they open it up to, what number would you say per category? 20? 10?
Yeah, 10 sounds right to me based on everything that's available now. I mean, the situation you described sounds to me like it's the tail wagging the dog. if you're basing this on the television show not having enough time to recite 10 names in every category, and the nominee's uncle can't get a seat, that seems, you know, just ridiculous to me. And I think that broadening, you'd get a bigger audience if you had a wider range of shows nominated. So it just seems like you're limiting your audience unnecessarily beyond the immediacy of the theater and the broadcast. Yes, I think it ought to be increased, you know, fairly substantially.
I agree with that. Well, I think we've solved all the Emmys problems, my friend.
Sounds good.
Well, let's check in again in a couple of weeks, because this is a race and things do change and we all change our opinions. Meanwhile, thanks for these insights, Ken. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks a lot.